Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you to today's session on metal and mining, the roadmap of growth, decarbonization, and digital excellence. The metal and mining sector stands at a defining crossroads. India is targeting an ambitious 300 million ton of steelmaking capacity by 2030, even as the industry faces mounting pressure to decarbonize, comply with mechanisms like the EU, CBAM, and navigate a volatile global trade and currency landscape. At the same time, digital and AI-driven transformation for predictive logistics to market visibilities is reshaping how the industry operates. Today's conversation will explore how India's metal and mining leaders are balancing these three forces: growth, sustainability, and technology, without compromising on competitiveness, safety, or workforce readiness. To help us understand this, we are joined by distinguished leaders who bring deep expertise across steel manufacturing, mining operation, and industry strategy. We welcome you, our panelist. It's Mr. R.V. Sridhar, sir. R.V. Sridhar, sir, is a global steel and energy transition leader with 33 plus experience of CEO and CXO experience across India, Africa, and Europe, having led major downstream businesses at JSPL and EMNS India, including a turnaround that earned him the Steel CEO of the Year award in 2017. He is now a senior industry consultant at McKinsey, recognized globally for his thought leadership on green steel, hydrogen, iron making, and industry decarbonization. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Mr. Muthumari, sir. He is a head mines at Pecor Vidant Limited, a subsidiary of Vedanta Limited. With nearly 2 decades of leadership experience across diverse mining commodities, he is a strong advocate for mine capacity, digital transformation, ESG, and sustainable mining, driving innovation for a safer and smarter mining industry. We welcome you, Mr. Muthumari, sir.
Thank you, madam.
So we'll be starting our first question with you, sir, Muthumari, sir. India is accelerating domestic mining, particularly for critical minerals that are essential for electric vehicles, renewable energy, and advanced manufacturing. As mining capacity expands, how can companies deliver faster project execution while maintaining strong safety standards, environmental compliance, and the trust of local communities?
Yes, madam. Mining is no more, it looks like a separate industry. Today in modern, as well as when we are driving for Viksit Bharat, it's like one of the most essential, as well as like a infrastructure. It's like a main infrastructure which is leading to the national building. When it comes to the critical mineral as well as domestic mineral extraction, the government also supporting to maximize. So when we talk about EV, green technology, or sustainable growth, solar, all these things required almost more than 10 to 12 times whatever the mineral consumption today, which is at least 10 to 12 times, which is required more to transit from our present level to the EV vehicles as well as green technology in that area. So once if it's talk about faster project execution, that is a very, very important thing. Faster project execution at the same time without compromising on the safety, sustainability, as well as environmental compliance and community trust. It's 4 things. It's look like a 4 pillar in the chair or 4 wheel in the 4 wheel. We cannot compromise any one of the things to move forward. So both all 4 are very interconnected. When we talk about the speed of execution, today the latest technologies are available, as well as our nation's growth. If we want to align, every project must be executed very faster manner. As at the same time, when we want to do the project, similarly, there should not be any compromise on the safety. The people who are working for us, whether it's the directly or the stakeholder or the community surrounding us, they should be very safe. So that also we need to incorporate it. And environmental, it is our responsibility to ensure there is minimal damage, as well as providing better environment to our next generation. Fourth, there was a time when we obtain all the statutory permissions, we can directly operate the mines. But today the trend has been changed. We need to obtain the social license. Social license means like the community, how we are engaging the community, not only on the employment, how we can make them as a part of our operation as a partnership. So that will give us the social license. Once we get the social license, every project it will go in the very long term basis. So all four we have to give proper importance with better planning, then it can be lead very fast manner.
Thank you, sir, for your answer. Okay, so the next question for you is that mining operations are increasingly using technologies such as drones, IoT sensors, remote monitoring, and predictive analytics to improve the productivity and safety. So, based on your experience, which digital innovation has created the most meaningful impact, and where do you still see opportunities for the industry to improve?
Today, we cannot avoid the digital intervention in our operation. In like developed countries like Australia, Canada, and other areas, they are using autonomous fleet management system, including the truck, excavator, everything. It is operated without manless operation. They are mainly doing that kind of complete automation. Still in India, we have not gone that much advanced level. So here we are like incorporating every process. We are trying to incorporate so many latest digital technologies, starting from exploration. Earlier, without doing physical exploration, it is very difficult to quantify or identify where the mineral is there. But today, without touching the ground, we can able to predict what is the total estimated volume, how much is the depth it is there, which will be reducing our physical exploration cost, as well as increasing the successful rate of exploration. Similar way, we can design better way for the complete mine life through the better softwares. Then it comes to the operational side. There is a earlier there was a time mining operation, it's like a reactive move. Today we are in that kind of technologically blessed with, we can do very faster as well as safer decision. We can take proactive measures to avoid any incident, accident, as well as better productivity, as well as less cost, reliability of the equipment. So these are all the advantages presently which is available, and mining industries we are trying to adopt it, all these things.
Okay, sir, that is very well explained. So now, after we understood about mining, I think now Sridhar sir will be able to more highlight about the steel, because the first process is the mining process. After the mining, the raw materials, and then we go to the finished steel and all the decarbonate, whatever it is. So now, Sridhar sir, over to you, and Pragati will be asking questions from you. Pragati, over to you.
Yeah. Hello, sir. So, our first question for you today is that India has set an ambitious target of reaching 300 million tons of steel making capacity by 2030. While the industry is also under increasing pressure to reduce emissions and meet global sustainability expectations. So, according to you, from your perspective, how can Indian steelmakers balance rapid capacity expansion with the transition to low carbon production without losing cost competitiveness?
Good. Thank you. First of all, if we have to reach 300, where are we right now? At 180, close to 200 million tons. So which means in the next 4 years, we are going to put up 100 to 120 million tons. Okay, so how do we decarbonize this? Because what is there, 180 million tons is already done. Okay. Now, how do we go about this 100 to 120 million tons? Let's understand one thing. You first have a plant and then try to retrofit decarbonization. Okay, that's going to be costly. Why don't you be in the beginning itself design for decarbonization? For example, your blast furnace, which is the biggest, let's say, carbon dioxide emitter in a way. Now, you have this bell-less charging, or what we call it as, rotating chute, bell-less charging and all that stuff. And so these are the things which are coming up now. Now, just to give you what sort of things which we should have, all the 100 to 120 million tons which are not going to be put up, and in most of the boardrooms, we are thinking of how to set it up. These are the things which should be taken care of. For example, in a blast furnace, there should be a off-gas analyzer. Now, what happens is, if there is more of carbon monoxide in the off-gas analyzer that is coming out of the blast furnace, it means the consumption within is very poor. The coke consumption is very poor. Carbon monoxide should be converted to carbon dioxide and then only it should come out. But if instead of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide comes out, it means to say the combustion inside is incomplete, it is inefficient. Now, that means what? More of coke consumption. The more coke consumption would mean the more carbon dioxide pollution. So, one of this is you should have a carbon, the off-gas analyzer. It is called ETACO. What it means to say is, if you have an equation on which you have carbon dioxide on top and CO and CO2 below, CO plus CO2 below, which means it should be between 47 to 52. That's the ratio it should be. Having said that, this is something which you should be taking care of. This will reduce the coke consumption. The second point is, the coke consumption also depends on the radial distribution of coke and iron ore in the blast furnace. Iron ore is not permeable where coke is permeable. In a way, it allows gas to travel through. Now, you must have a radar profilometer which will tell you what is the sort of the coke distribution, in how many rings and layers it is, what is the iron ore distribution and all that. These are the things which you should have in the design itself. If you do not have it in the design, you will have to do retrofit, and retrofit is much costlier than the design itself. So this is one the basic critical insight to everybody, how to decarbonize. Build it in the beginning itself. That is one part. Then the second point is, there is so much of talk regarding aluminum replacing steel in cars and aeroplanes and so on and so forth. But let's understand, aluminum gives 14 times carbon emissions compared to steel. Steel is around 2 to 2.5. It is 7 times aluminum, is a carbon dioxide emitter, polluter in a way. So now, what is the aluminum's main advantage? It means to say it gives you, it's a lower weight. Its density is 2.7 grams per centimeter cube. Now, if our steel, which is red, is 7.87 grams per centimeter cube. Now, if you can have low density steel, which means if you, in a particular steel, if you inject aluminum up to 10 to 12%, there is a reduction in weight about 12 to 8%, and then the strength to weight ratio is better than aluminum. Aluminum strength to weight ratio is about 127. Okay. Now, whereas low density steel is around 165. So, and in the same time, steel gives you better decarbonization than aluminum. So this is something which we should, propagate everywhere, that by going for aluminum substitution and all that, you are only increasing the carbonization. Then there are other things, in a particular blast furnace, how do you test the heat inside? The heat is going to be tested inside by what is called as monitoring the silicon level. And now the silicon level is monitored in the slag. It's a lag indicator. What happens, the reaction in the beginning in some of the blast furnace, after 4 or 5 hours, you come to know what is happening in the silicon in the slag. The slag to blast furnace, from the start, the hearth to this, it's about 4 to 5 hours. Now, so if you do the silicon analysis, you are giving a lagging, you are getting in the data about what happened 4 or 5 hours back. So now this can be done, this can be eliminated by having an AI sensors and all that stuff. So all of this will help you to decarbonize in a bigger way. If you do not decarbonize, now let's say around 2.5 tons per ton of 2.5 tons of carbon dioxide per ton of steel, which means if you are going to do 300 million tons, which is what you said, and this is what the government strategy and the target is, you'll have 750 million tons of carbon dioxide coming out of India's service, which is too high. So we have to decarbonize. And there's another point which I wanted to say, that is, if you start the decarbonization ladder, you must start it with there are costlier decarbonization, there are cheaper decarbonization. When I say cheaper decarbonization, like for example, improving the yield, improving the energy consumption, they're all cheap. You can do it, and in fact, it's going to reduce your cost. By reducing the energy consumption, by reducing the, what we call it as, increasing the yield, you are reducing the carbon dioxide output. Then there is another thing what should happen is, if you start digitizing and process control and all that. Thirdly, if you use more of scrap, all of these are things which will help you to decarbonize and at a lower cost. Then you have a higher cost. That is to say, the carbon capture, then hydrogen, and so on and so forth. Now, instead of going for costlier decarbonization, please concentrate on something which you can do easily. So this is my message to the steel community.
That was very well explained, sir. So, moving to our second question. So, you have written extensively about the economics of green steel, highlighting that the challenge goes beyond green hydrogen and extends to green energy systems, storage, and overall cost competitiveness. Looking ahead, what do you believe is the single most important intervention, whether in policy, technology, or financing, that could make green steel commercially viable at scale in India?
This is a very interesting question. Tell me, let's have hydrogen. How many kilowatt hours per to produce 1 kg of hydrogen? 50 kilowatt hours to produce 1 kg of hydrogen. How much does hydrogen go into 1 ton of DRI? 55 kgs. Now, you have electricity cost. Electricity for me is the biggest driver. Okay, it contributes nearly 2/3 of the hydrogen cost, so to speak. Now, let's have the various scenarios. 6 rupees per kilowatt hour is what you get. Okay, at that 6 rupees per kilowatt hour, you're talking about $4.50 per ton of DRI. Per ton of kilowatt hour of electricity cost. Okay, 4.5 hours per kg. Okay, so that's the thing. Now, if you bring down this electricity cost to 2 rupees per kg, or it becomes to $2 per kg, then what happens is your electricity cost comes down. At $4.50 per kg, what happens is the hydrogen cost itself is $250. At $4.50 per kg of hydrogen, it is $250. What is the blast furnace hot metal cost? $360. In the hydrogen cost itself, the fuel cost in DRI is $250, which means it is on more than 2/3 of what you produce in the blast furnace. So it's not going to be competitive. So we have done an analysis where if you bring down this $250 to $110, a drop of $140, then hydrogen becomes competitive. Now, how are we going to do this? It's nice to say all of these things. One is, of course, the government subsidies and all that. We have about 50 rupees per kg, and then viability gap funding and all that stuff. Now, this viability gap funding, which is partial, not much. Germany gives you a superb viability gap funding. It gives you about 100 to 110 euros per ton of steel. That's what Germany gives. India doesn't give you that much. It gives you $0.58, so to speak, per ton. Okay, so let's put it this way. Now, this cost by the subsidy comes down from $250 to about $260, $270. So they will come down, but still it's nowhere near. $250 comes to close to $220 or so, but it is nowhere near $110, which is what we require. Now, this is where we have a beautiful suggestion. BESS, battery energy storage system. Now, in this battery energy storage system, you have different portfolios of batteries. You have lithium, which is up to 2 to 4 hours. Between 4 to 8 hours, you have vanadium and iron flow batteries. Then between 8 to 20 hours, you have iron air batteries. A different portfolio of batteries, different portfolio of duration, each giving you a good cost for different durations. For example, vanadium becomes uncompetitive. This lithium becomes uncompetitive beyond 4 hours. Okay, now vanadium should replace. Now, if you have a BESS, battery energy storage system, which will optimize for each part of the duration, okay, and gives you round-the-clock power, it gives you firm power, it limits curtailment, and above all, there are 4 vectors in a steel plant. Okay, now if your BESS can address all the 4 vectors, which are A, your power, second is the heat. Steel plants generate 800 to 900 degrees centigrade, at times even 1000 to 1100 degrees centigrade. All that heat is wasted if you can capture that heat. So power and heat, and then hydrogen, and what I should say is lastly carbon. If all of these can be combined together and you give a consolidated BESS like what Chinese are doing it, okay, then the cost comes down to $2. So 2 things. One is BESS, which will take care of all the 4 vectors. And then you have the government subsidy to an extent, not much. Then what? You have a situation where the hydrogen cost comes down to $200. Then the whole thing becomes viable. So these are some of the things which we have to make green steel competitive. There are other things also which I mentioned earlier, energies and all that. See, carbon dioxide which comes out of the blast furnace, it has had high pressure, about 1 to 2 MPa. Use that high pressure to run a turbine. So you have what you call as electricity generator. And then again, what happens is, it comes out with a lot of heat. Now, if that heat can be combined to boil water and then make it into steam and run steam turbine, that's another thing. So waste heat recovery. Then you have your, carbon dioxide pressure to capture. So these are some of the things which we should do to reduce the energy consumption and so on and so forth.
A very powerful framing, sir. It was great to listen to you.
I don't know whether you have taken the full impact of what I said. I said BESS, which takes care of all the 4 vectors, which is heat, which is power, which is hydrogen and carbon. And there are many such instances in the world where this is being done. Okay. BESS, which only takes care of merchant power or round-the-clock firm power, is not good enough, because a steel plant runs 24/7 or a metals plant runs 24/7. Okay, aluminium plant runs 24/7, cement plant runs 24/7. All of these requires combined 4 vectors, which I mentioned just now.
Yes.
And then the BESS cost comes down the way I mentioned to you. Use different portfolios. There are batteries which give you different durations, and you maximize through a software. The software like Tesla's Autobidder or Fluence or Wärtsilä's GEMS, GEMS. All of these will tell you how to operationalize, how to optimize the whole thing and give you a low-cost BESS. Best.
That was actually very well explained. And I would like Manu ma'am to.
Question is for both Sridhar sir for you and Muthumari sir for both of you. So the question is, the metal and mining industry is expected to deliver on 3 priorities at the same time: growth, decarbonization, and digital transformation. If you had to prioritize one over the next 5 years, which would you choose, and how can the industry ensure the other 2 are not left behind?
I mean, there is no trilemma. It's a false trilemma. Whether growth or decarbonization or digitalization. All of them are interlinked. But if I have to choose, I will choose growth. From growth only, if you are going to do well, then you have enough surplus to invest in decarbonization as well as for digitalization. But just to give you a comparative, decarbonization, it takes about $1 billion, to decarbonize, and various things which we talk about, hydrogen and so on and so forth. And then the payback is in 10 to 15 years. On the other hand, if you have this, digitalization or AI, which we're talking about, we are talking about tens of millions of dollars, which is much lower, about a big factor lower. Now, what will this do? It will improve your yield by about 3 to 4%. Your energy consumption by 3 to 4%, and for your yield by 1 to 2%. Now, the best example is POSCO. POSCO, what it does, POSFRAME, the entire blast furnace is digitalized. It's AI driven. Dark factories of ArcelorMittal or dark factories of Baowu, all of these things are digital factories. Now, if you have these sort of things, now just to give you a POSCO, since I mentioned about it, the in the stainless steel, they automate all the weights are all automatic. Okay, it is not the humans which intervene and put the. Okay, so it is the humans who do not intervene to put the automatic weights and all that stuff. It is it's all digitalized. It is all AI driven. Then you have what is called as the caster output. The caster output is also digitalized. Then what is called as in a sinter, it's called burn through point. All the blast furnaces, there is something called burn through point. All of these are AI driven processes and all that stuff. Now let me tell you one thing. Okay, the more we digitize this, the more we do automate it. There are certain things which we should take care of. Again, there is a background noise. Okay, now there are certain rules when you automate. Okay, let's take the blast furnace example. In blast furnace, you leave the coke from top, and by the time it reaches below, it's about 6 to 7 hours. You inject PCI coal from below, the tires, okay, and oxygen from below. The reaction of oxygen and PCI is instantaneous, within seconds or within minutes. Whereas your coke which comes down is about 6 to 7 hours. Now, both of these are 2 separate things. Most of the automations fail in a blast furnace or in a steel plant is because people are, it is run by AI people. They are digital specialists, they are not metallurgists. You should marry the metallurgy experience also. That's very important. Now, if you combine these 2, you will you have to create 2 layers, one for the slow and the another one for the fast. And the fast one must be reporting to the slow one. Okay, that's important because the tire temperature must be between 2000 to 2200 degrees centigrade. If it is not, there will be a chill in the earth and all that stuff. So keep this in mind. And then there are other things, the so-called safety practices. There are in a blast furnace, there are stave coolers. If there is a leak of water from those stave coolers, water will penetrate into the blast furnace, which is at 1500 degrees centigrade. At 1500 degrees centigrade, water will be a reaction with coke will form hydrogen. Hydrogen is combustible, explosive. The whole blast furnace will go up in smoke. So there are certain things which you cannot automate, where human intervention is required. So there are clear do's and don'ts. In fact, I've written in a recent article in LinkedIn, my authorship, where I said what you can automate and what you should not. For example, what I mentioned to you that the coke and the PCI from below, coke from top, all of this can be automated. But then wherever the safety is involved, okay. Now another point, the cooling of the blast furnace. One is the stave cooling, which I mentioned, to stave leak. The other one is the cooling. Now what happens is if you give it to an AI expert, he will say, let's have a booster pump, and if this booster pump fails, put a standby pump. No, sorry, there is something called LOPA, layers of protective analysis. It's called. In certain critical functions, you must have layers and layers of protection. Or SIL, safety integrity limit, SILs and all that. So now what happens is wherever there is like cooling involved, you apart from, let's say there's a power breakdown in the blast furnace, all pumps stop working. Then in that case, what should you have? You should have a gravity tank. Gravity works whether the electricity is on or off, power is on or off. So the point is the gravity brings down the water to cool the whole thing. So this sort of things should not be automated. As I mentioned to you, the 4 things which you should not automate. One is this stave cooling. One is the overall cooling of the furnace. Then hot blast valves. That's a sort of a throttle which if something is going wrong, you stop it immediately. Then the 4th one is what is called as seal pot and the flares. So there are different types of things. You should not automate it. You should bring the metallurgy into the picture. So again, let's put it that way. There are things called RAG, okay, retrieval augment generation. These are all AI concepts. Now what does it mean? That let's say the blast furnace has a problem now, or electric arc furnace has a problem now. These problems would have happened in the past. Can your plant dip into that past experience and without even encountering something unknown, start to what worked in the 1 year back or 2 years back can start working with you now? Then there is also called as inverse reinforcement learning. What does it mean? All the expertise in the plant, people are retiring. People who are 60 years, 70, 58 years, 60 years, they're all retiring. All their expertise is lost. There should be some way in which you can capture this experience. It's called inverse reinforcement learning. Or there is another concept called MARL, multi-agent reinforcement learning. Each agent in the blast furnace is one agent, electric arc furnace is another agent. If each agent optimizes performance on its own, okay, it's called reward hacking. What happens is the whole blast furnace or the whole steel plant collapses. So there must be somebody who should orchestrate, there's somebody who must act as an arbitrator to look at the whole thing and to ensure the best optimization for the plant.
Well explained. Now, Muthumari sir, can you also give your views on this question? What are your opinion on this?
Yes, madam. When we talk about growth, decarbonization, as well as digital transformation, my perspective, it will goes to, I will select digital transformation for the next 5 years. Because when we talk about the critical minerals, India has been identified as 30 minerals as a critical minerals for the national growth, as well as economical, as well as defense protective system. So most of the mineral, when we take example, whether it is lithium, nickel, cobalt, rare earth minerals, these all the minerals, this is just we are going to start the production. The production, doing the mine extraction is one factor, and another factor is mineral beneficiation. How we bring that mineral from usable material. So we are almost, we are not having any past experience or the technology like China. So once we incorporate the digital transformation, starting from community engagement, because mining is mostly driven by the heavy equipments. For example, for underground other open cast equipment, particularly for underground equipments, each equipment cost around 12 crore or 15 crore. So we want to give the partnership with the local community as getting the social license. So there is a very big knowledge gap, skill gap. So when nowadays there is lot of real-time simulators are available, so without touching the equipment the persons can be trained in a better way, as well as artificial intelligence, AVR technology has came. We can give the complete, the person he goes to the underground, how he is going to charge the explosive, how he is going to do the blasting, those kind of risky job also we can give the complete virtual experience to the persons. So starting from person's capability building, then lot of technology available for the exploration, then mine planning and design in the long term basis, at the same time reducing the stripping ratio, as well as real time monitoring for the productivity of the mining, as well as beneficiation. So once if we have digitalization like developed countries we are incorporated, definitely our productivity will improve more than 30 to 40%, cost will reduce around 20%, and individual what we can say, overall the project life of the project also it will improve. So my perspective, digitalization remaining decarbonization is like our responsibility. The growth is the byproduct. Ultimately, both will come.
Yeah, explained it, and your point of view, what you want is important.
But before we go to the next question, I have a question for RV sir. Chino sir, it's a question for you. As you had mentioned before, that many countries are doing a lot of things and which currently even India should practice. However, there are a lot of policies which the Indian government, the Ministry of Steel are breaking. So, what more, according to you, can be added in the policies? Which policies which were given were all right, or they need to be again rechanged, or there's something you want to suggest so that the steel industry and the mining, metal and mining industry both can flourish, and the aim of the, as you said, the growth increases.
Look, if we don't do anything, 300 million tons is 750 million tons of carbon dioxide. So we understand the gravity of the situation. Okay, so giving 50 rupees per kg for hydrogen, and that too for 3 or 4 years, is not enough. Okay, then, and that too, this goes down progressively. 50 becomes 40, 40 becomes 30, and all that stuff. We require a strong viability gap funding. Okay, like the way Germany is doing, and many others are doing it, for example. Okay, and then because these are all experimental technologies, they're not mature technologies, and then it involves a lot of money. So government has to come forward and help. And all of these, I mentioned to you about the BESS. Again, I do not know whether the full import has come. You know, the point is BESS, if it is done properly, the way I have mentioned, okay, different portfolio durations, it's a blended portfolio which will bring down the LCOS, levelized cost of storage, to almost 70 to 100, dollars per ton, etc. Now, this is what we are looking at. So this will bring down the cost of hydrogen, and then it will give you round-the-clock firm power, because all of this intermittency, the solar or wind, they're all intermittent. Okay, they're not going to give you firm power. Then the second point is how much of this is indigenized. Okay, now if you have to depend on lithium for 2 to 4 hour batteries, it is all imported from China, and we don't want to be dependent on China. For example, lithium can be replaced by sodium. So why don't we go for sodium? Why don't we go for vanadium? Because vanadium is available in India, sodium is available in India. Then iron is plenty available in India, iron flow, iron air. This is very interesting technology. Iron rusting and de-rusting at the same time. This characteristic of what we call it as rusting and de-rusting is something which you can take advantage of. It forms an iron air battery or a zinc air batteries, all of these things. And then you have also got CAES, compressed air energy storage. It will compress the air, And then suddenly when the air expands, to 800 times it expands and can turn a turbine. And then pumped storage. Okay, all of these are mature technologies which we can use. Okay, and then hydrogen itself is a storage medium. When, in summer when there is plenty of sun, use that captured energy to produce hydrogen and store it. And then in the winter when the sun goes low, this hydrogen becomes your fuel cell batteries. Hydrogen can generate electricity. Okay, now these are some of the things. Now, point is what I mentioned to you about BESS BESS. What happens is normally electrolyzers are oversized. What do I mean by that? In the sense that because of the intermittency, whenever the sun is strong, you need to generate much more. If you have to generate much more than what you need, you are oversizing the electrolyzer. And then you also oversizing the hydrogen storage. Why? Because what happens is, during intermittent times when the sun or solar, wind is not available, then you require that to run the plant. So all of this oversizing and of electrolyzers and hydrogen comes down if you have this round-the-clock power, if you have firm power, and if you have a BESS which will integrate all the four. I repeat again, that is to say hydrogen, carbon, heat, and then finally your power. Now, just to give an example, Tata Steel, all the slag which comes out of the blast furnaces, that's a battery. It's a thermal battery. Slag is a thermal battery, and this should be used. Kraft Block is a outside company with which they have a tie-up to use the slag as a thermal battery. So this is something innovative. So these sort of things we can work at. There are Antora has done this. It's a company abroad which captures the carbon heated to 1800 degrees centigrade, and that itself becomes a battery for you. So all of these, and how can carbon be heated to 1800 degrees centigrade? From the heat which is evolved out of blast furnaces and all that. Okay, or from electric arc furnaces, which is a high heat. There is another interesting thing which I will tell you. The one is all the carbon dioxide which comes out of the plant, okay, can be used to turn a turbine which is 1/10 normal turbines. Carbon dioxide has got a peculiar behavior. At 32 degrees centigrade and at 72 atmospheres, carbon dioxide becomes a dense liquid. It becomes a quasi-liquid. Now, this quasi-liquid does not change its volume. Okay, just to give you an example, when you have a gas turbine, gas enters the turbine at a high pressure and low volume. By the time it exits the other side of the turbine, it becomes low pressure and high volume. From low volume to high volume, when the gas turbine moves, it's a huge machinery. But carbon dioxide in its liquid phase or semi-liquid phase does not expand its volume. So what carbon dioxide enters in the beginning of the turbine and exits also at the same volume. So you do not require such a big machine. 1/10 of the machine it can be used. But Chinese have done it. So these are all the innovative technologies which we should use for decarbonization.
And now one question is for Muthumari sir on the things you have told. So basically, sir, as mining, we all know it's very carbon intensive, and also it also impacts the local communities and all. So and there are a lot of policies which are coming for mining also, and also the industry. There are a lot of things are doing so that it doesn't impact the community staying there. So what do you think? Is there any other particular policy to be coming out there, or what the industry is doing is right? So there's a progress thing, or there's some more changes that are required in the sector so that we can achieve all what we want to achieve, and also not hurting the nature and also the communities which are staying there.
Yes, madam. Government has done lot of transformative legislative changes in the mining industry, particularly in the last 10 years. Even the mineral auction rules they brought, and leases has been given for 50 years period. Now earlier if we compare the average size of the lease is like 100 hectare average size of the lease. Now they are giving around 200, 300, even 500 hectares. So once the bigger size of lease is given, the miners also able to plan for the 50 years life of the mine, the entire process in a very structured manner, including infrastructure planning as well as execution. One policy the entire mining industry is awaiting, like now government is given the leases on auction basis, but once during the auction itself, if they have given environmental clearance, this will be the maximum production capacity, and forest clearance. So all these things, if they have given as a combined thing, it is very easy for every investor to invest as well as start the mining operation at the very fastest manner. Now after taking the leases in auction process, it is further getting all these clearances, it is delaying the project for another 3 to 4 years of period. So that can be reduced. And the remaining thing, now government also is giving lot of emphasis on deploying the equipment on electrical equipment instead of diesel operated equipment. And even our IPM also is monitoring how much solar or alternative energy we are developing as a part of our mining operation. Then groundwater rainwater harvesting, plantation. So all these things are ultimately contributing for the decarbonization as well as sustainable development.
Thank you, sir. Before we conclude our panel discussion, I have one final question for both of you. So the question is same for both of you. So the metal industry has traditionally relied on fragmented procurement and relationship-driven supply chains. As digital platforms such as Metalbook bring greater visibility, price discovery, and supply chain integration, what changes do you expect in the ways the industry buys, sells, and collaborates over the next decade? What do you, sir?
Sure. Okay. Now, first of all, let's split the steel business into head and tail. Head will be all the large OEMs and what you call auto companies and all that stuff. There you cannot sell it through your medium. Okay. Because this is a relationship based, and then it is not a price. There is no price discovery there. Price is sort of settled on a bilateral negotiation. This happens with all 6 monthly contracts, 3 monthly contracts, 1 monthly contract, yearly contracts, not for auto companies. So such things cannot be done through your medium, okay, or through digital mediums and all that stuff. What can be done through the digital mediums is this retail, the tail part of it, the retail part of it, okay, where price discovery is important. Okay, now in India, what happens is there is a lot of regional disparities and all that stuff, regional dispersion of prices and all that stuff, because people are not aware. Now, your channels or your platforms and all bring what is called as transparency in the pricing. People will come to know what prices here, what prices there, and etc. This sort of transparency is brought about. Now, so this is one aspect of it. Then the second point which I would like to mention is this. That is to say, there is not much money which you make through a digital platform. Let's be honest. What you can make money, and this is a suggestion to you, is you have the full transaction history. You have full transaction history. Which customer is sound, who pays on time, okay, whose credibility is high and all. If you have a record, no bank can beat you guys with regard to transaction history. So you can start giving credits. Use that. This is the point. Because you have the transaction histories of the various companies or various customers and all that stuff, which will beat the record of any bank. No bank will have the real histories and all that stuff. Here, you can, what you can add value is the credit, and then that you can make money out of it. But if you were to concentrate on, simple things like, so many dollars per ton of steel, you're not going to make much money. So this is my suggestion to you, which remains. And then also understand, you bring another critical factor. You have a history. Where does the material go? So the carbon trail is something which nobody else can. So one is, of course, the transparency. Second is your, the credits which you can give. And third is the trail, carbon trail. Lastly, okay, please concentrate on scrap. India is deficient in scrap. Okay, and scrap, as I mentioned in the beginning, is also decarbonizer. Okay, it reduces carbon footprint. So be it as it may, what happens is if you can track the scrap history, the way it moves and all that itself is a carbon trail. So concentrate on scrap. This is what will make your platform usable in terms of carbon trails, in terms of credits, and in terms of transparency for the media.
Thank you, sir, for your suggestion. And also in Metalbook, we are already providing working capital and credit facilities based on the experience, and also we are also buying and selling scrap on a regular basis from our.
I said something. carbon trade.
Great. Yeah, we are also following that because we are making sure that the metal that we are buying or we are selling, we make sure that we customize it into the perfect, perfect metal, and then only after quality checks we sell it out there.
No, all that is fine. Okay, yeah, I'm not talking about your quality. I'm talking about your carbon trail. Okay, so that is one. And second thing is, think about credits. That is what you can do value addition.
Thank you so much, sir, for your suggestion. Thank you. Moving to you, Muthumari sir.
Yes, madam. First of all, I would like to thank the Metalbook because you have taken the digital initiative as well as connecting the people and trying to now started the sales purchasing related this initiative also. It will really helpful to the entire mining industry because just behind me there are more than 250 books are available. So I have purchased only less than 2% on hard copy and the remaining everything is like a digital platform like Amazon. So what is the biggest advantage? Because price is very transparent, easily we can comparable and we can track entire end-to-end transition also when it is going to become, and it's like a different publisher also we can easily compare. So what I'm trying to say is that similarly in mining also there are a lot of equipments, spare parts or day-to-day the consumables. It's like a cross of business. So if you you or any other digital platform, if they can able to connect the customers as well as the supplier in a very transformative manner as well as very easiest to purchase and making the people also accountable. So these are the things ultimately it will reduce the cost impact to the miners because going forward cost advantage is the very big as well as very critical thing for taking any decision or taking any procurement. So I think digital platform is having very huge scope. I trust Metalbook will utilize in a better way as well as connecting the mining industries as well as suppliers and serve in the very better manner.
I have 2 points which I can add with your permission. First of all, for green hydrogen to succeed, okay, Indian iron ore is deficient. It has got a lot of alumina. Okay. Now, for green hydrogen has got 2 problems. It requires high purity iron. It cannot have alumina content. In India, the alumina content is between up to even 2.5 to 3%. Mr. He will be in a better position to tell you. So therefore, it requires a lot of upstream beneficiation and all that stuff. Okay, so to make hydrogen successful, hydrogen DRI and all that stuff. Then the second point is carbon verification. You will say big things, I'm doing this, I'm doing that and all that stuff. Okay, but who is there to verify? A defensible carbon. Now, this is something which we should be, there should be a national nodal agency, which there is. But the help would be more required for the secondary producers. Primary producers will take care of themselves. This is my view.
Yes, perfectly said, sir. Primary players can definitely take care of these points. So, shall I conclude, ma'am?
Okay, so before we conclude, I just want both of you to once summarize the whole your points highlight which you want the steel and mining industry, metal mining industry to know. Summarize this so that that points can be highlighted and the steel industry are aware what they are doing and what they're doing right and what they should do right.
Okay, so first thing is digitalization. Digitalization should be married with metallurgy, in the sense that if you cannot have digital operators in isolation, because otherwise big accidents will happen in the plant A, and B is most of the times it will fail. For example, you have sensors. Half the time they don't work. Okay, so you need to have a KPI which says that to monitor how many sensors work all the time, because digitalization depends on that. And then the second thing what I mentioned earlier was that you should not concentrate on retrofit. You should concentrate on designing in the beginning itself decarbonization. And then the second thing what I mentioned to you is in the decarbonization, please concentrate that which is cheap, which is your energy and the yield, and then your process and digitalization, and then scrap. And this carbon capture and hydrogen can come a bit later. Okay, so these are some of the things which I mentioned, and I also said about BESS batteries, round the clock firm power with all the four vectors, which is heat, carbon, then power, and what should I say, hydrogen. So these things, if they do it, your costs of hydrogen can come down to $2 per kg, which is what we want, so that the whole hydrogen, steel making hydrogen through hydrogen becomes viable.
Muthumari sir.
Yes, madam. In today's world, we cannot avoid mining. Mining is no more luxury; it is the essential. So once it's we all are agree mining is very, very essential, then the speed of execution of the project, safe operation, sustainable operation, as well as building the community trust, these four are interlinked. It's not that each competing each other. So as a mining leaders, we should consider how to collaborate and balance all four together so that we can achieve the growth in the mining industry. Once mining industry grows, all other industries also will grow. Ultimately, it will end to the national growth. The second point is I would like to emphasize here. We should not think that we are just giving the opportunities or we are supporting the local people as stakeholders. It's not, those kind of thinking should not be there. We should actually partnership with our local community. We should empower them so that the growth journey should be not only the industry's perspective, it's a collaborative perspective of industry, local community as well as nation. Then it's comes to the growth, decarbonization or digitalization. We must focus on the digitalization. Once the digitalization comes, definitely the cost optimization, productivity, as well as safety, sustainability, everything will goes up. So ultimately, as a result, the growth will come, as well as we can able to achieve the decarbonization also. Then now it is the wonderful opportunity for the digital platform. They can able to serve, as well as they can able to connect the gaps presently which is available between the miners as well as the suppliers. So these are all the very good opportunity today. It is available in front of every one of us, who we have to utilize. And finally, I want to thank the entire metallurgical PMS team as well as Metalbook team for giving us this wonderful opportunity. And thanks to especially both of you, madam.
Yeah, thanks to all of you.
Would like to put on record my sincere thank you to R.V. Sridhar sir and Muthumari sir for sharing your insights with such clarity and depth. Today, your perspectives span the economics of decarbonization, the realities of digital transformation, hydrogen on the ground, and what it truly takes to build a competitive and responsible metals and mining industry have made this a genuinely valuable conversation. We are grateful for your time and expertise, sir. Thank you so much.